Story 1. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my husband through this post?
Hi, Stefan. Maybe you'll finally listen now. And if you're wondering if you can speed home and stop me from leaving, it's too late. I'm sending you this after I've already packed everything and left. I spoke with the landlord and took my name off the lease. I even set up a deposit for the next month's rent. After that, you're on your own, buddy. I guess you're wondering why. Maybe you'll act like this came out of nowhere, right? Because you think you're a great husband and father-to-be. Let me break it down for you in a language you might actually understand.
Before we dive into the story, a little note. Stefan saw this post and he's furious. Apparently one of you found him on the Rate My Boobs thread on Reddit, and he's since deleted his account. For clarity, I left out anything that could directly reveal his identity or get him doxed. So please ignore anyone claiming they know more than what I'm sharing here. The background. I'm a 29-year-old woman, and I've been married to Stefan, who is 35, for 5 years. Altogether, we've been together for nearly a decade. On paper, our relationship might have looked fine, but in reality, things have been anything but. Here's why I finally had to walk away. From day one, Stefan's mom has made it her mission to be involved in every aspect of our lives. She wore white to our wedding. Not a family tradition, just her way of getting attention. She constantly criticizes me, and has even broken some of my most cherished belongings. The worst was when she threw out my grandmother's necklace, dismissing it as cheap costume jewellery. And what did Stefan do? He stayed quiet, claiming I was overreacting every time I brought it up. Stefan spends all his free time on Reddit, giving strangers relationship advice and rating women's photos on Rate My Boobs. Yes, you heard that right. He's actively ignoring our marriage to rate strangers online, yet he remembers nothing about me, birthdays, anniversaries, the projects I care about. But he remembers every detail about his job and Reddit activities. I often feel like a stranger in my own home. Whenever we argue, he becomes hostile and calls me buddy in a sarcastic tone, like I'm some nuisance he can barely tolerate. Household chores, forget it. The house, the laundry, dishes. It's all on me. Here's what truly broke me. I'm 5 months pregnant with our first child, a daughter. And yet, instead of seeing the ultrasound, Stefan ran off to help his mother with an urgent Wi-Fi issue. Then he suggested that his mum, who thinks corporal punishment is fine and regularly belittles me, would make a perfect babysitter. I'm terrified of the environment she'd create for our daughter, but Stefan just laughs it off and says I'm paranoid. If he wouldn't protect me, how could I trust him to protect our child? I knew I couldn't stay. I packed my things, spoke with our landlord and left. I even set up the rent payment for the next month so he won't be out on the street.
So, Stefan, if you're reading this, know that I'm not coming back. I'm done being the third wheel to you and your mother, and to your Reddit obsession. Am I the a-hole?
Story 2. Am I the a-hole for letting my kids rob my brother's house to prove a point? Here's the story. Last month, my brother and his family came over for a visit. My kids and I have this ongoing game where we create Lego dioramas and leave them around the house as little surprises. We'll set up goofy scenes like Iron Man fighting Darth Vader on top of a Fortnite loot llama. It's just a fun tradition we share. Anyway, my nephew seemed to love it too, so much so that he helped himself to a few pieces to take home. When we noticed that some figures and pieces were missing, I asked my brother to bring them back. He brushed it off, saying kids will be kids, and assured me he'd return them next time we met. So we meet up for coffee a week later, and I made sure to remind him that I wanted all our stuff back. But when he showed up, he forgot to bring the Legos again. Alright, I thought, game on. Fast forward to a family BBQ at his place. This time, I gave my kids a little pep talk on the way over. I told them that unless all our missing Legos magically showed up when we arrived, anything in Uncle's house was fair game for them to take. And with all the stealth and enthusiasm of a pack of pirates, they got to work. By the time we were ready to leave, there wasn't a remote, a single small electronic, or even a beer mug left in the place. I even had to sneak their family dog back inside before we headed out. On our way home, my brother started calling, frantically. I ignored the calls until we got back, and when I finally picked up, he was in a full-blown panic saying a bunch of stuff was missing from his house. I told him I'd check with the kids and see if they might have taken anything. He knew what was up and started ranting, demanding his stuff back. So I told him that I'd box it all up and return it next time we saw each other, just like he promised with our Legos. That evening he showed up at my door with every single piece of our Lego collection, plus a few extras he hadn't realised weren't ours. I gave him back his stuff along with his forgotten items and told him that this would be our way of handling things if his son kept helping himself to our stuff in the future. Now, he's pissed that he had to make a special trip to return everything. My parents think I went overboard, saying there's a huge difference between an 8-year-old pocketing a few Lego figures and my teenage kids robbing his house. So, am I the a-hole? Story 3. Am I the a-hole for charging my niece $1,200 for stealing my perfume collection? Alright, here's the story. I've been building a perfume collection since I was a teenager working my first job. Over the years, I've collected over 400 bottles, some high-end, some rare. It's my pride and joy, and while I'm happy to share samples with friends, I expect people to ask first. Enter my 17-year-old niece. She'd been coming over to my house supposedly to help walk my dog. Little did I know, she was also sampling my collection without permission. Not just using it, but actively decanting perfumes and selling samples to her friends for cash. She assumed that because I have so many, I wouldn't notice a few missing, or that some bottles had lost significant amounts. Well, she failed to realise that her private Instagram wasn't so private. I saw every single story where she posted prices for each sample. Once I figured it out, I tallied everything she'd taken based on the cost per ounce. She mostly targeted the trendy, TikTok famous perfumes like Bianco Latte and Escapade Gourmand, which was a relief, those are replaceable, but she also took an entire bottle of Baccarat Rouge, over $300 in stores, along with full bottles of popular perfumes from Sephora, like Marc Jacobs Daisy, Burberry Her Elixir, and Flower Bomb. Petty or not, I made a list of everything she'd taken, calculated the total cost, and handed it to my sister, her mom. I explained that I expected to be paid back in full. My niece is officially banned from my home, no exceptions. My sister got furious, saying, "She's just a kid. Kids make mistakes." I agreed. Kids make mistakes, but this is the perfect way for her to learn from them. Now they're arguing that all her car savings will have to go towards paying me back. I don't care. She's lucky I didn't involve the police or take her to small claims court, and that I kept it in the family. But here's the question. Am I the arsehole for demanding that she or her parents pay me back? Am I the a-hole? Story 4. Am I the a-hole for despising my mentally handicapped sister? The title makes me sound horrible, but hear me out. My sister is severely autistic. She requires attention almost 24/7 and cannot be left alone. She is non-verbal and cannot take care of herself at all. Despite being only 12, she is extremely destructive and often violent, breaking anything she gets her hands on. I hate her. That might sound wrong, but it doesn't feel like it. I was only 6 years old when she was born, and since then I've never had my parents' full attention. From my earliest memories, the world has revolved around her. I was moved out of my room into the basement when I was 7, because she needed to be next to my parents. All of my childhood toys were destroyed by her, and my parents simply ignored me when I complained. Even when I was 14 and she broke a laptop my school gave me, I was blamed. On top of that, I am expected to take care of her and drop everything for her. I can never make plans with friends because my parents expect me to be there whenever they need me to look after her. Even when I do somehow manage to get time to myself, I have to leave if they call me. If I don't, I get punished. A recent example of this was when I went to see the new Spider-Man movie and was grounded because I turned my phone off in the theatre. It feels like I'm nothing more than a slave to them, and anything involving her overshadows me. This past week I was chosen to give a speech at a school event. I was so excited and my parents promised to be there, but they never showed up, claiming it was because of my sister. Whenever something important happens for me, they are always too busy with her. I've held all of this in for so long, and today it finally spilled out. While discussing colleges with my father, he joked that I should get a degree that pays well so I can take care of my sister when they're gone. I don't know why, but this caused me to break down. I cried and screamed about how it's always about her, that I'm nothing more than a caretaker, and that I'm expected to be her slave for the rest of my life. I've locked myself in my room since then, and my parents haven't even come to check on me. Am I the a-hole here? Story 5. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my sister's husband's surgery with my college money? Context. My sister, 27F, and I, 18F, lost our dad a year ago. He was my only parent, Our mum was never in mine or my sister's life. Dad left money for both of us, but my sister used hers to buy new cars and renovate her house. I'm currently living with my aunt because my brother-in-law wouldn't let me stay with my sister. I plan to use my inheritance money to pay for college tuition, as I've always wanted to be a doctor but haven't decided which specialty yet. My sister and I haven't been close since she married her chronically ill husband. He made backhanded comments about our dad and mocked his illness, even creating a scene at his funeral. Everyone excused his behaviour because of his health, but I distanced myself from both of them after that. Lately my sister has been visiting more, venting about her husband's condition. He's been in and out of the hospital for heart problems and needs surgery. During these visits she brought up my inheritance money several times, but I cut the conversation short each time. Then she directly asked if I could help pay for her husband's surgery, promising to pay me back in less than a year. I felt uneasy, because if I gave her a significant amount from my inheritance, there was no guarantee she would pay me back before it was time for me to apply to college. I'm taking a year off, but I know my sister can't pay that much back, and I felt I would be risking my future. I refused to help, and she had a meltdown at my aunt's house, calling me heartless and cruel with no empathy. She insisted that her husband's health should be my priority, and that I needed to help because education is nothing compared to someone's health. She asked if I would be happy to see her as a widow and my nephew without a father. My aunt suggested that other family members might help, but most of them have cut my sister and her husband off. I argued that her husband's poor health isn't my fault, and that I shouldn't be blamed or guilted into giving money. Despite my refusal, she continued to cry, and although my aunt decided to stay out of it, she warned me to be prepared for permanent damage in my relationship with my sister if I didn't help her now. Since then, she's been sending me texts and pictures of her family, telling me this is what I'm saying no to: a happy, healthy family with a healthy husband and father. I cried, feeling selfish for not being a good sister and aunt. I asked a friend for advice, and he suggested they sell their cars and the luxury items they bought to afford the surgery. He warned me that if I gave them money, I might never get it back and may not be able to go to medical school, so am I the a-hole here? Well, everyone, how many a-holes did you count? Give me a reaction for every story in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked this video. I upload stories daily. Check out the next video while you're still here. We bring our story to a close and continue with the next one.